just ask that everything that's said and done here tonight will be pleasing in your sight. Father, we thank you for this country that we live in and the freedoms that we have to assemble and exchange ideas and to engage in the governmental process. So, Father, we thank you for those many blessings, and we ask it all now in Jesus' name. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brazel.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Klinghammer.
Here.
Councilmember John White.
Here.
Okay. All right, next on our agenda is public comments, and we will allow speakers to approach the council on any topic. However, once a topic is open for discussion, only 6 speakers are allowed, alternating pro and con. Each speaker has a limit of 3 minutes, and please remember to fill out a speaker's card so we will have your name in the records. So, first of all, anyone for public comments? Okay, folks.
Go to the podium here.
That's
Yes,
it.
sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, gentlemen and folks. I'd like to make a comment about Allied Waste, aka Republic Waste. They are the sole source waste management provider in the St. Charles City and used widely throughout the county. Republic Service, Inc. is a multi-state, multi-billion-dollar corporation whose business practice demonstrates neglect and disregard of serious environmental hazards that ultimately end up at the taxpayer's expense. At Westlake Landfill in Bridgeton, there are many known cancer-causing, radioactive, and chemical hazards. There is a subsurface smoldering event, a fire, which is approximately 1,000 feet away from the radioactive waste. There are no state or federal emergency action plans related to a potential event at the landfill, which is less than 2 miles from downtown St. Charles. While the radioactive material and fire are under federal and state jurisdiction, the leadership of St. Charles County must perform due diligence regarding contracted service providers. Republic's contracts to St. Charles are doing a grave disservice to the citizens whose air and water is getting more polluted at Republic's behest. The precedent-setting fire at Westlake has been burning continuously for at least 3 years, and the odor is frequently noticeable in St. Charles. The fire is also the subject of a lawsuit filed against Republic by Attorney General Attorney General Chris Koster for environmental crimes that are currently being committed. The investigation includes involvement of the Environmental Protection Agency as well as the Departments of Energy and Health. A cancer cluster has been reported to the EPA in North St. Louis County. The EPA's initial investigation did not include relevant data about the previously lived locations of the cancer victims. In January 2013, 750 cases of rare cancers, birth defects, and genetic mutations were reported. The data collected has since grown to over 3,000 cases, and the initial findings show that the statistically improbable occurrences to include multiple incidents of conjoined twins and over 40 cases of appendix cancer, a rare cancer that affects 1 in 300,000. This is a public health threat due to the latent effects of chronic ionizing radiation, and that added radiation occurred exposure of today ensures that future generations in the area will have preventable disease. St. Charles County is often referred to as Florissant West due to the large migration of previously lived North County residents. As the effect exposure in previous North County natives continues to increase, the St. Charles cancer statistics will continue to rise. If these facts of cited environmental law violations are not sufficient for St. Charles to immediately void the contracts with Republic Waste Management, the facts support that due diligence will preclude any renewals of waste management services from the business that consistently disregards the legal environmental protection of our citizens. Pretty much we have a serious problem over there, and we are being ignored in actions, and the laws are being violated, and St. Charles and St. Charles City had a contract with these waste management organization that I feel we need to avoid and get away from. Thank you.
Is there any other speakers on this particular topic?
Good evening. My name is Wendy Lametta, and I have been a resident in St. Charles County for 16 years. And before that, I was a lifelong resident of Florissant. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is responsible for the removal of the radioactive contamination in St. Louis. I've handed you each both a prepared statement for this evening and also a copy of the most recent FUSRAP newsletter from summer 2013. FUSRAP stands for the Formerly Utilized Sites Remedial Action Program. The federal government has already spent $1 billion so far to remove the radioactive pollution in St. Louis, stemming from the Manhattan Project uranium processing at Mallinckrodt. Among the cleanup sites, per the summer 2013 FUSRAP newsletter, is Coldwater Creek in in North County. The radioactive waste at Westlake originated from the exact spot that contaminated Coldwater Creek. Westlake, a federal Superfund site, has not been designated a FUSRAP site, and it has remained stagnant under EPA authority for 24 years. Historically, the radioactive materials were criminally handled and illegally dumped at Westlake. Weapons-grade uranium processing ensures that for as long as these carcinogens are not removed from a populated area and into a licensed repository, their toxicity is ever increasing. It will always be a threat to air, water, and people. I inquired to Michael Spurgeon, the St. Charles City Administrator, about the contract with Republic. He took umbrage at my queries and refused to give me his email address. Republic's PR spokesman, Richard Callow, who also represents the St. Louis Cardinals and the Post-Dispatch, is paid to offer assurances that there are no health concerns at Westlake. Due diligence requires looking at history, and Republic's business model is one that is dangerous to the local environment and its citizens. This is my first grade class from Florissant, Missouri. I'm 42 years old. Any cancer under age 55 is highly suspect. This person is dead from liver cancer. This is a male currently fighting thyroid cancer. This is a woman currently battling gynecological cancer, and half the women in the class are infertile. This is a public health emergency right now. And St. Charles County needs to perform due diligence regarding Republic and their criminal environmental business practice. They have a landfill that has been burning in Ohio for 12 years, and this radioactivity, which is the size of the Titanic next to the subsurface smoldering event that has been burning for 3 years, requires the attention of St. Charles County leadership. Please, people's lives depend on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak on this particular topic? Okay, seeing none, any other public comments? Mr. Enoff.
Good evening, members of the County Council. A.C. Dienoff, County resident. I'll try to make this quick and brief as we all want to get home to see the Cardinals be victorious this evening against the Boston Red Sox. The first thing on your agenda that I'd like to bring to your attention is the purchase of two 2014 3/4-ton extended length cargo vans. They're on the consent agenda. And the difference between Don Brown Chevrolet of St. Louis, I'm not sure if that's the dealership in St. Louis City or County, versus our St. Charles City County dealership of Pudman Ford, the difference per vehicle is $1,051. And I've been before this body numerous times. Economic development starts right here in our backyard, right here at home. People that live in our county that Pudman Ford employees or Marshall Ford employees, or those people spend money right here in our county. They generate sales tax, they generate economic development. It starts right here about giving back to families that pay the taxes and that pay the bills right here at home. For us to go outside the county when the service and the product is offered right here in our own home county is just wrong. And it sends the wrong message to our residents and to the county as a whole. We need to come up with a campaign. Keep it in the STCC. Keep it in St. Charles County. Keep our families strong, our small businesses vibrant, and our county sales tax up. Don't give outside sources to St. Louis City, County, Jefferson County, or Franklin County, but keep the business right here. in St. Charles County. Bill number 4016. Last meeting I talked to you and told you the ins and outs of what the county purports to spend. I want to talk about the homeless assistance, and in particular Section 570.201, subsection E of the Federal Code dealing with homelessness. I am a staunch conservative Republican, but yet our heart has to go out to the homelessness, especially in light of the winter months coming along. The single homeless population in St. Charles County is a stigma. Everybody wants to ignore the problem and let it go away. We need to head this problem head on. As 38 men went homeless last year that live in our county in unincorporated pockets around the county, live in woods, live in non-inhabitable structures. 60% of the homeless of St. Charles County were unsheltered, were the homeless single men. Unfortunately, St. Joachim and Ann and the Salvation Army of St. Charles and O'Fallon take in men that are connected with either marriage, have children, or a girlfriend. But if you're a single man, you don't have a prayer to be sheltered here in St. Charles County. These two organizations turn you away. The Homeless Strategy section of the Federal Code, Section 91.215, subsection D, is very lacking, and this county needs to head it on and solve this problem. We need to negotiate with St. Joachim and Ann and also with the Salvation Army of St. Charles and O'Fallon and make contract changes to include single men and stop the stigma. I look forward to working with the County Council, working forward with the Community Development and the Community Assistance Board, but we need to stop ignoring this problem. It's getting more men every year, and we need to come up with solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments on this particular subject? Public comments on any other subject? Okay, seeing none, that closes the public comment section of our meeting. Next on agenda is an oral report from the county executive.
I have a very brief oral report.
Okay, Joanne.
I apologize. I don't apologize for this. First of all, I wanted to point out that Mr. Ellis is on tonight, and
Yes.
Mr. Ullman is very happy to have sent his name forward and hopes for your good vote tonight. In addition to that, if Wayne would introduce the new planning and zoning director, and then maybe Craig could introduce our new airport director.
Great.
So that you all have a chance to meet them.
We wore our last planning and zoning director out after 40 years of service. And so we had to search for a new person, and I think we're very fortunate to find Robert Myers, who will be the new, he's starting today, the new planning and zoning director. He has experience in Atlanta, St. Joseph, which I'm sure was a lot of experience there. And he also has had a very similar position for the last 8 years in Urbana, Illinois. Prior to all of that, and earlier on in his career, he was a planner with St. Charles City. And so I think we have found somebody that has some leadership capabilities and the planning background, along with knowledge of this area, that we're going to be able to get a real quick start from him. Just from some of the conversations I've had with him today, I think he's going to add a lot of new dimension for some of the discussions we all have about growth or whatever it may happen to be. So again, please welcome Robert Myers.
Terry, if I can add,
Sure.
I had the pleasure of working with Robert 15 years ago now with at the City of St. Charles, and Robert really knows this stuff. He's really knows the historic layout extremely well, and we're really going to be well served to have him.
Great. We welcome you to St. Charles County government.
Yes, and I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Mr. Dennis Wiss. He is our new airport director. As you all probably know, Tracy Smith retired after a dozen or so years with us, and Dennis has a lot of similar experience with a lot of similar airports. I didn't know this was happening tonight, so I didn't really go back and look at his resume, but it's pretty extensive. He's got time in Arizona, he's got time in Indiana, in a lot of similar situations, and he's hit the ground running, wrapping up a lot of the flood issues we had down there and some of the tornado issues and things. So we're glad to have him, and I think he's going to work out very well for us.
Okay. Again, welcome to St. Charles County government. Okay. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda? Okay. Seeing none, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Okay. It's been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Consent agenda has passed. Okay. Next up is the resolution number 1315.
Resolution 1315, sponsored by council as a whole, a resolution designating the week of November 17th through 23rd, 2013 as Geography Awareness Week in St. Charles County, Missouri. Whereas each year since 1987, when Geography Week was established by presidential proclamation, National Geographic and Missouri Geographic Alliance have worked together to promote geography awareness. And whereas the world is increasingly interconnected and interdependent, but too many students and others lack understanding of the world's geography within and beyond the borders of the United States, and whereas Geography Awareness Week promotes geoliteracy and education in the nation's schools and communities, an essential part of the 21st century education, and whereas during Geography Awareness Week, teachers, students, citizens, and communities across St. Charles County can gain further understanding about how our world is made up of interconnected human and natural systems, within special emphasis this year on the 2013 theme of the New Age of Exploration, using resources developed by the National Geographic Society, the Missouri Geographic Alliance, and other committed organizations. Now therefore be it resolved by the County Council of St. Charles County, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the St. Charles County Council hereby designates the week of November 17th through 23rd, 2013 as Geography Awareness Week in St. Charles County, Missouri. Section 2, the St. Charles County Council hereby further encourages its citizens to engage in the awareness and study of geography, not only globally, but on the local level as well.
Questions or comments on this resolution? I might add, after teaching American history for 34 years, the awareness of geography amongst our present students is somewhat surprising. I'll put it that way. Okay.
A resolution designating the week of November 17th through 23rd, 2013 as Geography Awareness Week in St. Charles County, Missouri. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel? Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution 1315 passes. Next up is the emergency bill number 4018.
Emergency Bill number 4018, requested by Steve Ellman, sponsored by Terry Hollander. An emergency ordinance amending Section 410.405 Ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, on minimum public standards for existing subdivisions, upgrading their private street and storm sewer improvements for dedication to and maintenance by the public.
Okay. Questions or comments, please? I guess my question is why is this an emergency bill rather than...
I can speak to that, and so can Mr. Feldman.
Okay.
The emergency is presented by an ongoing NID project of the county, the Rose Hill Estates Road NID. About a week ago, the contractor working on that project encountered a buried line, an electrical line. To move it in order to accommodate a larger cul-de-sac would have imposed excessive, undue additional costs on the NID ratepayers and on the county building their project. And it turned out that the county engineer determined that the 80 as opposed to a 70-foot wide cul-de-sac was not necessary at that point. So to avoid the expense And in addition, the delays, the project delays, we made the request for an emergency bill for your consideration tonight to change the UDO to authorize administrative waivers by the county engineer in cases like this one.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
An emergency ordinance amending Section 410.405 Ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, on minimum public standards for existing subdivisions, upgrading their private street and storm sewer improvements for dedication to and maintenance by the public. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Okay, emergency bill number 4018 passes. Next up is bills for final passage, starting with bill number 4009.
Bill number 4009, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from AFF Agricultural District with Floodway Fringe Overlay District to RRFF Single Family Residential District as per application 19965.
Okay, questions or comments on bill 4009? Okay, seeing none.
An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from AFF Agricultural District with Floodway Fringe Overlay District to RRFF Single Family Residential District as per application 19965. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Okay, bill number 4009 passes. Next bill up is bill number 4010.
Bill number 4010, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential as per application 19982.
Okay, questions or comments on bill 4010?
Mr. Chairman, I have
Yes.
some.
Okay.
This is a development outside of Wentzville, actually out in the cornfields northwest of Wentzville, that's proposed as a 3-acre development with 11 home sites in a very nice area. The Planning and Zoning approved this, and I was very supportive of it through Planning and Zoning because it is new building in that area, and it's the kind of building that fits in well with that area because it's a rural area. I believe there's been some misunderstanding. I've spent a good amount of time in the last few days trying to understand that the county's development staff has kind of alluded to the fact under the future land use plan that this could be an urban service area. And as an urban service area, they would require to be showed how they would be hooking up to water and sewer down the road. I did contact Duenke Creek Sewer District. I also contacted City of Wentzville today. And by all apparent sewer providers in that area, there will not be water and sewer in that area for a lot of years. And it's well over a mile away from this proposed development. In due fairness to the developer and the builder is a local builder out of Wentzville, I believe they need to know at this juncture whether or not the county is going to require them to put water and sewer lines in addition to the private wells and septics. I think doing both is both redundant, and it's also kind of unprecedented in this county. You either have a well and a septic, or you have public water and public sewer. So as a suggestion that I've discussed with Mr. Anthony, I really appreciate his help on this matter. We talked about, as a condition of approval, allowing this, this development to go in with septics in, with wells, as most 3-acre developments are, but allow for easements along the existing right-of-way easements to connect to public water and sewer at the time and place when those services become down the road. I spoke to the developer about that, and they don't seem to have an issue with the additional 10 foot for water and sewer line. And I've actually spoke to some folks like Mr. Bamer and Mr. Gross for Duckett Creek and City of Wentzville and a few others that thought it was actually a pretty good idea. We can basically let those folks have that rural area and to themselves, and then down the road, when and if they do have septic and sewer or septic problems and desire public water and sewer, the easements are in place to make the job of our NID director, like Mr. Fellman, much easier because the easements are already there. So I guess what I'm after is I'm hoping that would be enough of compromise to make Mr. Anthony's staff comfortable with this development. But in the event that they're not comfortable, I think at least we probably need to table this to allow Mr. Bax to go back to his client, because I do not think the gentleman plans to proceed with the development if he has to both provide septics and public wells and stubbed out water and sewer lines for this particular development.
Mr. Hammond.
Well, rather than doing that, I would like to strike that requirement that he has to build the water and sewer lines within that subdivision as a condition of this zoning. St. Charles County is way ahead in this country regarding private sewage disposal. In the state, you can build a house on a 1 acre lot. We require 3 acre lots. And the reason for that is if you ever have a problem with your private sewage disposal system, you have additional room to put in a new system or add additional fields to that. That was the whole reason why we put in requiring a minimum 3 acres for that. So I don't see that ever happening, coming out to that distance in any time in the near future. And even if it did, I don't know that they really need it if they have a functioning private sewage disposal system. Not only do we regulate them with new installations, we also have restrictions that you have to maintain that system and have a person who's licensed to service that system. So we've put on very strict requirements for private sewage disposal. And now, at this point of the game, putting a contingency on here to require them to put in water and sewer lines, that's going to kill development. And at this time, I think we need the development.
Mr. Bamer.
Just for clarification purposes, I did speak with Councilmember Cronin about this. I think he's come up with an excellent idea, irrespective of this particular development. I think it's a great idea that he has. Will greatly assist, as he said, whenever you form a NID, which typically happens after a development is built. It's a financial mechanism by which you can get those sewers in. Having said that, though, I want to clarify, and Harold can actually finish that out, but there is no requirement. What I think they're referring to is a staff recommendation, which you may choose to agree with or disagree with, but there's no requirement in the ordinances that would say that we have to put in public water and sewer systems. It is in our master plan as being desirable, a point that they inserted, I think, just a couple of years ago. But Harold, you can speak to that issue. I don't think there's any requirement in a situation like this that the developer would have to actually put in water and sewer facilities.
In other codes of ours, we have a requirement that when sewers are available, homeowners need to connect to them. And we apply it particularly when septic systems fail. My understanding, though, is that the ordinance does have certain requirements for subdivision developments. I'll ask Wayne to state them to the council. I don't have them in front of me, but Wayne may be familiar with the application.
There is no condition on the zoning. We can't condition contract zone. And so the zoning the staff fully supports. In fact, the zoning that they're asking for is actually less than what the land use plan proposes could be acceptable districts. The land use plan also indicates that the area that we're in is within an urban service district, trying to recognize that this is the area that, in developing that plan, people wanted to concentrate growth and allow growth to take place. And one of the things that people indicated in that whole process of developing that plan was that when you end up with septic system developments periodically throughout that area, it aggravates the economic extension of sewer systems. And so one of the things that we've got to consider when we have cases like this in the urban service area is an examination at the time that the place is being subdivided and you're reviewing a subdivision plat. Should the development be denied or approved, and on what grounds should that occur? What we're suggesting is that if the distance is exceptionally long and the probability of extending a sewer line is quite expensive and is not in the foreseeable future, then what can we do with the development to require that some point in the future, when a sewer line is available, that it has been readied to facilitate extensions and connections to that sewer system? One of the things that Councilman Cronin has suggested is pre-designating areas so the easements are in place, so you don't have to have the debate. Somebody's system fails and they need to connect to, and they want to connect to a sewer system. They don't have to debate that whether they can get across somebody else's property to get to the sewer system, because connection may be the least cost method at that point in time. So I think what Councilman Cronin was suggesting is what the property owner needs is some idea. Are we going to require connections or the establishment of a sewer system right now? And I think probably not. And that what we need to examine is how can we set the stage so it can be facilitated in the future when it makes economic sense to do so.
Terry.
Yes.
Wayne, I was on the master plan committee, and I got to say, I don't remember talking about these urban service areas. Was that a topic of discussion?
Oh, yeah, and believe it or not, you were involved in those discussions. One of the things that some people wanted, and you specifically wanted, is to make sure that development wasn't going to be sprawling into the southwest part of the county.
Well, here's what I don't understand is your staff, look, Mr. Cronin handed this to me, and I agree with him, and I agree with Dave. It says in your recommendations, it says on the second page that at that time, recommendations of the 2025 master plan must be adhered to, which require, it doesn't say most probably or maybe, it says require properties in urban service area to be developed with the future extension of utilities in mind. I'm not sure what that, it sounds like it means that they got to do that, and I agree with Dave, that's going to kill 3-acre developments, and plus, in my area, in this situation, if a developer is going to pay for the expense of getting water inserted to location, he's not going to do a 3-acre subdivision. He's going to do quarter-acre lots. And then Mr. Cronin or myself is going to have a huge problem because nobody in those areas that live in a rural area that's got the 3 to 5 acre to 10-acre lots, they don't want that. That's not the kind of zoning they want. So to me, I think that our county has a good mix in southwest and north, that they have the rural communities that people want horses and things like that, and they don't want the communities and those kind of communities. So I don't think I agree with this urban service area. I mean, it sounds like you're discouraging rural living.
That is not the case, and let me explain one more time. We are not opposed to 3-acre lots within this area. We could have 5-acre lots, 10-acre lots. It doesn't matter. As far as we're concerned from a staff, that's the developer's decision to make. If their zoning makes sense with the surrounding area and whatnot, we're not opposed to that. What the Urban Service District proposes is not to develop in a fashion that exacerbates the extension of community sewer systems. Because if you do that, then you're going to have to utilize a lot more land for development, and you're going to get more sprawl. And one of the things that we were hearing out of this process back in 2008, because we haven't changed anything since then, is that there are some portions of the community that the people did not want any more growth, or at least any higher or lower density type of residential development, nothing more than the 3-acre lots. And so within those portions of the community, septic system, there is no potential possibility for a community sewer system. Nobody's planning anything. Nobody's got any ideas about extending services. And so in those areas, they're designated on our land use plan as agricultural or rural residential.
Well, I don't disagree. I think the easement thing is a good idea. However, I think the language in this recommendation by staff, if I was a builder or if I was a county councilman, which I am, I would be confused or concerned by this language.
And again, while we created this whole urban service district back in 2008, due to the recession and coming back out of that recession, we never had a test case to really start diving into the details of what that was going to mean to any one particular development. I think what...
Let me finish. Go ahead. So with what Dave said, I agree with Joe. I think this is a good plan, but is there anything we need to put in the ordinance that assures that the developer does not have to do anything for water or sewer at this time?
Well, you'll have to talk to council to see if there's something you can put in a zoning ordinance, because the zoning is not prescribing the necessity to think about what kind of sewer system you're going to be putting in. That will come at the time that the property is being subdivided. Ultimately, as it relates to this particular topic, the plan is a guide. If you decide not to go along with what is prescribed by that plan, you don't have to. The only thing that I think staff has been doing since this issue has come up, and we've been able to now start looking at this one case, and we're probably going to have a lot more of them in the future, is how do you try to adhere to the plan, because in some cases it is economically impossible to extend sewers at this point in time for that particular development. And I don't think we want to say no to that type of development, but I think based upon the plan that was created, I think we're obligated to explore how can it be facilitated in the future to occur. Now, if we were dealing with a community sewer system that was a lot closer than what the one is on this specific case, we might come to a totally different conclusion.
Mr. Crowe.
Mr. Anthony, I think a lot of the problem is because this plan, this urban service area is relatively new. I served on that master plan steering committee with Joe as well, and I can tell you this went right over my head because we were pretty well told that it was pretty much the same as the 2008. I brought the 2008 one and I looked at the categories in that one and this one, and that urban service area wasn't in the 2008 plan. So it is something. It's not in there. So
I will swear on a stack of Bibles that I compared those two plans, and exactly the same words are in both plans.
Okay, well, I got it here. We don't have to swear any Bibles,
okay.
But you can look at it at the meeting. But what I'd like to say is this. I think what the developers looking to this council for is I don't think there's the county staff nor anyone on this council intends them have to put private wells and septic systems and sewer lines in. I think that's an unreasonable burden on them, okay? Now, I have talked to them, though, about additional 10-foot of easements, which would allow future water and sewer lines as that area gets developed. And an easement's not an additional burden to them because they still own the land and it may never even get used. Now, the discussion is who's that easement gets that easement, and that's a lot tougher discussion. Because there's two, in this particular area, there's 2 level 1 EPA certified sewer providers, City of Wentzville and Duckett Creek. I've engaged Wentzville, I've engaged Duckett Creek. Mr. Gross thinks it's a good idea, like Mr. Bamer. So I'm going to suggest that I think tonight all we need to do is to give Mr. Bax a little bit a warm and fuzzy feeling that they're not going to have to put septic systems and sewer lines in both at the same time, and we can proceed with this. But the bigger picture would be this. Maybe we need to open up a discussion with the sewer providers like Duckett Creek and the city sewer systems like Wentzville and discuss about how can we make this ordinance easier for NID directors and county planners in the future without increasing any additional burdens on those subdivision developers within the county. Because 3-acre subdivisions are a good sign for the economy. There's 3,000 vacant lots in Wentzville, and guess what? I'm seeing a lot of houses get built on them, and I see the first new 3-acre development in my district, and I'm real happy about it. So I would like some feedback from the other members of council. If you think it's redundant to have both, and you're okay with this being developed with water and septic systems, where these folks have an idea where we're headed with this, and that's fine. If you're not comfortable making a decision tonight in regard to that, I'll be happy to table this for 2 weeks. Okay.
Mr. Klinghammer.
Yeah, Joe, if it's all right, I'd actually rather table it. I'd like to go out and look at it myself, but the way I understand it and the way that sewer systems, the whole system gets built, is it builds upon itself. And if we allow this to go in without the sewer lines being put in the ground now, it's not so much can they be done later, it's who pays for it and why, because it's a sequential thing. The lines just keep going further and further out. If we don't do this, if we create a block, my concern is, now I need to look at this closer because quite frankly I looked at this the other night and didn't think anything too much about it, but I believe what Mr. Anthony is saying has some real merit to it. If we don't continue to allow the system to be built out, it causes problems in the future about how are we going to get sewer lines out there at a later point. Not so much physically how do you get them there, who's going to pay for them if you're skipping blocks of, if you're skipping the building blocks.
You don't have to go to Forestall. You can go to my house or all over St. Paul. Dave hit it right on the nose. The county staff does an excellent job regulating septic systems in this county. Sandy May does a good job. You're not going to have the old nasty, stinky septic in a new home like you used to. But the water out of my system comes out so clear. I actually use it for irrigation. Okay,
yeah.
So.
In the city, though, we've had multiple times when we've had to go back and form NID districts to take care of those systems that have failed over time. Not in the beginning, but I'm talking ones that have been in the ground for 30 years. We did multiple ones of them just to solve the environmental problems. And it would have been better had they ran the sewer line from the very beginning. I agree with your suggestion. I think it's a very good one that at least we have the easement there for them. But I need to take a little bit more time to look at it closer is what I'm asking today.
Mr. Elam has a question here.
So the way I'm reading this ordinance is, all this discussion that we're having is not in this ordinance that we're doing. All we're doing tonight is changing this from 5-acre to 3-acre, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So there's no reason to table this the way I see it. We ought to be able to just go ahead and vote this through, and the other part of that can be negotiated between the builder and Mr. Anthony's department, but that's not the question that's on the table right now. How about if we just go ahead and pass this? We can have that other discussion at another time, but let's go ahead and vote on this the way it sits.
There's a little more to it than that. And Mr. Bax could probably enlighten us on this, but I do believe that this property is under contract, and I do not believe that there's probably closing issues in the contract related to this rezoning. Is that a fair statement to say? Or maybe Mr. Bax could enlighten
Would you
us on
prefer
that.
for this to be tabled or for us to vote on it?
I don't want to take up much time here. My name is Dale Bax. I'm with Bax Engineering. I'm here tonight representing Paragon Custom Homes. Basically, what our issue is with this rezoning is this one clause in the staff report that talks about the 225 master plan in the urban service area to be developed with future extensions of utilities, and here's the key word, in mind. That's the part that's a little bit worrying my client on this, to get it rezoned because he does not want to get it rezoned if we fall under this restriction. When you look at the urban service agreement or master plan that's been put out that you can find online, this is what it looks like. You go to the utility section of this thing and you read through the utility section, it doesn't quite match that statement, which is perfectly fine as long as we follow this urban service area guidelines that's put off online. There's 3 goals on this thing. One of the goals is to basically reduce the number of inoperative septic systems, which we're going to do that through the St. Charles County. Like they said earlier, they've got systems in places and they've got a maintenance contract that we'll have to enter agreements to. So that section of that goal and strategy we can take care of. The other goal is to facilitate the collaboration of the county, municipalities, districts, and utilities to develop, maintain, and expand utility infrastructures to meet the growing potential needs of commercial, industrial, and residential land. Which the strategy on that is to improve coordination on major road improvement projects between utilities, road sponsors, and designers by including utility facilities in the design and the construction project schedule. So here we're talking about public road improvements. The last goal is to provide services to growth areas by planning for sewer extensions and expansions of existing facilities to coincide with the development. The last strategy on there is to ensure new residential developments has access to sewer facilities owned and operated by an appropriate local wastewater regulatory authority, which is what we're trying to do here by providing additional easements within our plat once we subdivide. Mike is absolutely correct. We're here tonight to get a rezoning approved. But upon getting the rezoning approved has contractual requirements with my client. He does not want to get this rezoned and have to go back through planning and zoning and have to build the infrastructure of the sanitary and the water sewer service. So it might just be a clarification that we can work out with staff. Mr. Anthony's kind of explained things pretty well here to us this evening. And it might just be a clerical, just a misunderstanding of the way this staff report was written. So when you look at what's online, the master plan, and how we have to press forward, I do not believe my client is going to be responsible for putting in the sanitary and storm pipes to sit in the ground for on the if the sanitary and water comes up Scotty Road someday. So I am okay with voting on this at this time and working with staff in the future after this, after what I've seen online and researched, and, of course, what Mr. Anthony has spoken about today as well. So.
Okay.
This
one. Yes.
Harold, can we move forward on this and actually strike this it's more of a recommendation, it's almost a requirement. The one line on the planning and zoning?
Well, since the staff recommendation is only a recommendation to the P&Z Commission, and since the P&Z Commission's report and recommendation to you is once again only a recommendation, you can act and on the rezoning ordinance tonight. The recommendations are not binding, legally binding documents. They are recommendations. I think that is true of the staff recommendation itself, even though it uses the word require. At a future time, when the developer comes back to community development with a proposed plat, there can be discussions as to the possible location of easements for future development. But the subdivision regulations that this county has in its Chapter 410 have certain provisions for required improvements. Required improvements, that is where you look for the requirements to Chapter 410. And in Chapter 410, there are requirements for streets, but in fact, Chapter 410 does allow for other than public sewers to handle wastewater treatment in large lot subdivisions like this one. That the developer wants to go forward and perhaps plat easements for future use in a future NID program is terrific, but he doesn't have to lay the lines now. And in fact, that would be an engineering impossibility, from my understanding of how sewer systems are built, because you have to build from low to high so that gravity works.
Okay. I guess going back to what I originally said, and I understand this county had problems when we had septics on less than an acre lots for years, and we had to go back and clean up those messes. That's why we established the 3-acre lots to service those private sewage disposal systems for hundreds of years. They don't need sewers if we've got a system in place that will last hundreds of years. That's my point. And I don't particularly care for these urban service areas, but we'll deal with that at another time.
Okay, I think we should go ahead now and move to go ahead and vote on the issue. I think what we're talking about here is just the first step in the process. Is that,
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I would like to add one thing that Mr. Bax isn't aware of. I did ask for further explanation of that sentence that he quoted in there. And this is just strictly from county staff. It says, in other words, connections to sewer systems will be considered, or how the developer proposed to connect to such facilities when they are available will be considered in review in the plot. In summary, staff is not opposed to low-density housing project on this site. The staff, using the plan as guidance, does recommend that, considering the proximity to existing sewers and being within the urban service district, development of the site should include the connection to a community sewer system, or how this connection will be facilitated and implemented by this development in the future. I think the impression that staff is giving these folks is that they're going to have to do it. I'm just asking the impression from the council states that we don't think that way. This I also want to make it clear in the meetings at P&Z, this issue was never brought up. P&Z approved this 10-0. I was at both meetings, okay? P&Z is great with 3-acre developments in this part of the county. It's a very good fit. But I also know this young man that this gentleman represents, and he is a good young home builder in Wentzville, and I don't want to cause any financial hardships to him. And I'm personally worried about getting this approved and then having staff requirements be more than dedicating easements, okay? So at that point, Mr. Bax, it's your decision.
I am perfectly fine with tabling this for the next 2 weeks. That is not going to delay our schedule, and that will give us time to work out the issues with the council and staff members, if that is okay with the council.
Okay, I make a motion to table bill number 4010.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next bill for final passage, bill number 4011.
Bill number 4011, an ordinance authorizing execution of a contract for water facility relocation and license to utilize easement between Missouri American Water Company and St. Charles County.
Okay, questions or comments on bill 4011?
Yes, sir, I have a comment on this one, okay? Reading through this bill, I think we're paying basically to relocate a utility on an easement for Missouri American Water. And reading through that bill, I saw that they charge us $144,000 in overhead costs, okay? And it's a lot of money, and it seems to me like whenever there is an issue with these utility companies and a county road project, it seems to me that we're paying through the nose, okay? So I want to bring it up a little bit. I brought in a document from 1875 that happens to deal with the road that leads by my house to St. Paul. And this is a county document from 1875, and back in those days, they paid for a month's worth of heating wood for the courthouse for $18.75. They paid a guy $6.25 for working at the county jail and the courthouse, okay? But for the little stretch of road that I live in, which is from Highway 79 to the church in St. Paul, they paid $400 for that roadway easement, okay? $400. Since then, those utility companies, not this particular one, have been getting a pretty free ride of the use of those easements for a lot of years. Now we have a situation where some counties have been charging to use those in a lease agreement to use those right-of-ways. We also have a 911 system it's starting to become less and less funded because the fact that most folks aren't using landlines anymore, okay? And I would propose down the road, when I see that the utility companies are doing this kind of stuff to us, that we look at taking those taxpayers' monies that were well invested back in 1875 and try to generate a little revenue for a good public purpose like the operation of the 911 center. Other counties have done that, and I've asked Harold to look at it, and I know there's some franchise agreements that are coming up that I believe Ms. George is working on, and I think this is a good time to look at what they're charging us and the fact that they're getting the use of our easements scot-free. And that's all I have to say on that one.
Other questions and comments? Okay, seeing none.
An ordinance authorizing execution of a contract for water facility relocation and license to utilize easement between Missouri American Water Company and St. Charles County. Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Okay, bill number 4011 passes. Next bill for final passage is bill 4012.
Bill number 4012, an ordinance approving a second amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the City of St. Charles for the extension of West Clay.
Okay, questions or comments on bill number 4012? Okay, seeing none.
An ordinance approving a second amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the City of St. Charles for the extension of West Clay. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes. Okay, bill number 4013 passes. Next up is bill number 4014.
4013 is
excuse me, 4013.
You're ahead of yourself.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
An ordinance authorizing execution of an agreement between St. Charles County and fire protection districts and municipalities operating a fire department and ambulance district users within St. Charles County for operating joint central fire and emergency dispatching service.
Questions or comments on bill 4013? Okay, seeing none.
An ordinance authorizing execution of an agreement between St. Charles County and fire protection districts and municipalities operating a fire department and ambulance districts users within St. Charles County for operating joint central fire and emergency dispatching service. Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Okay. Bill number 4013 passes. Now bill number 4014.
Bill number 4014, an ordinance amending ordinance 12-096 of St. Charles County, Missouri, and Chapter 115 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, relating to the basic pay plan for positions within the St. Charles County Department of Corrections.
Questions or comments on bill 4014? Okay, seeing none.
An ordinance amending ordinance 12-096 of St. Charles County, Missouri, and Chapter 115 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, relating to the basic pay plan for positions within the St. Charles County Department of Corrections. Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Okay, bill number 4014 passes. Next up is bill number 4015.
Bill number 4015, an ordinance setting the 2014 rates for group medical insurance benefits with Coventry Health Care of Missouri Incorporated, Always Care Benefits Incorporated, and dental insurance benefits with Advantica Dental Benefits Incorporated for county employees, elected officials, and retirees.
Question, comments on Bill 4015? Seeing none?
An ordinance setting the 2014 rates for group medical insurance benefits with Coventry Health Care of Missouri Incorporated, Always Care Benefits Incorporated, and dental insurance benefits with Advantica Dental Benefits Incorporated for county employees, elected officials, and retirees. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Bill number 4015 passes. Next is Bill 4016.
Bill number 4016, an ordinance relating to housing and community assistance, and one, approving the consolidated plan fiscal year 2014 through 2016, and the 2014 annual action plan for St. Charles County, Missouri, in its capacity as an urban county for fiscal years 2014 through 2016, under the Community Development Block Grant Program of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, and authorizing the county executive to execute all documents or certifications required for submittal to HUD with a consolidated and action plan, and two, further authorizing the county executive to execute the funding approval agreements that HUD shall require upon approving the 2014 annual action plan.
Okay, questions, comments on Bill 4016? Seeing none?
An ordinance relating to housing and community assistance, and one, approving the consolidated plan fiscal years 2014 through 2016 and the 2014 annual action plan for St. Charles County, Missouri, in its capacity as an urban county for fiscal years 2014 through 2016, under the Community Development Block Grant Program of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, and authorize the county executive to execute all documents or certifications required for submittal to HUD with the consolidated and action plan, and two, further authorizing the county executive to execute the funding approval agreements that HUD shall require upon approving the 2014 annual action plan. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Bill number 4016 passes. Next up is Bill 4017.
Bill number 4017, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute contract with Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services for Women, Infants, and Children, WIC, Local Agency Nutrition Services Program.
Questions or comments on Bill 4017? Seeing none?
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute contract with the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services for Women, Infants, and Children, WIC, Local Agency Nutrition Services Program. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Okay, Bill number 4017 passes. Are there any bills to be removed from the tabled bills? Okay, that concludes our meeting, and go Cards. Thank you. Anybody got a score?
1-0. 1-0 Boston.
Wow.
Bottom of the third, 2 out. Carpenter's up. Freeze is on second.
What's the score, Mike?
Was that your motion to adjourn, and Councilman Klinghammer second, and did I hear a vote?
Yes.
Aye.
Yeah, that thing's all in favor.